scientists have discovered a fairly obvious link to a certain type of stimulus for kids.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've heard about this. But
And
go
it's
on.
iPads.
Oh, okay. Never
iPads
mind.
and
Yeah.
video. So scientists have, or researchers have found a link to like developmental delays or developmental issues, and they use the term sensory differences in toddlers between the ages of like 1 or like newborn to 2 years old. And they're saying that these kids are having issues with many different things.
Oh, actually, I have not heard about this. I've heard speculations of people saying it's like, oh, it's like, giving your kid an iPad is not good. But I hadn't heard anything really besides that.
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of seen more and more in Gen Alpha. So there's millennial, and then there's Gen Z, which is right after, and now it's ready transition to Generation Alpha, which is like fully immersed in video.
Yeah.
So these children are having their developmental stuff delayed because they're on these video iPads or like any type of like video, and they're unable to like control their emotions sometimes.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're having difficulties kind of like, what is it, they have sensory preferences and sensitivities to like noise, light, and textures. So it's like they're very like not like, they have a hard time comprehending like things that happen in real life.
That's interesting that you say that because honestly, like I didn't know much about this or like at all about this.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I know that parents do give their iPads to their kids, but I didn't know it was causing things like that to happen.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing because it does make sense where kids who are kind of going and exploring the world and like kind of having to like come up with their own things to have fun are like that's like a more traditional developmental way. And now that they have like iPads and stuff to like keep them occupied, there's already studies and stuff that shows there's issues with having it for adults. Where it's like there's obviously like social media and everything like that. People are saying that these are just like dopamine machines where you're constantly like entertained, you're constantly stimulated.
Yeah.
And this is the issue where these kids are being stimulated so much that these things in their head, like like their emotional regulation, their ability to like control or like their desires and stuff is really hampered because they're so used to a certain level of things like, they want to get entertained, it'll be
It's
immediate.
right away. Yeah.
How can you like say that like if your entire life, like if you're a kid and then like your entire life you've been this allowed to like get immediately the thing you want and be entertained, and then it's like, oh, hey, by the way, you need to go to school. Hey, you need to go do this thing, sit there and not be like constantly entertained for like 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's
while in school. And it's like, there's no way.
I think you're right, because even just thinking about it now, as like as an adult, we get that instant gratification of seeing the video we want, seeing what we want to see, being able to find things that relate to us within like social media, videos, anything like that. But if you think about it, like we could pull back and we could go and essentially stop whenever we want to and have that control. I'm just saying, but kids,
But more so
than kids, because kids are going to be like, oh, okay, it's like I'm continuously watching videos. I want to see everything, and then they're getting continuous stimulation while we have the option of having breaks and having that control.
having jobs.
Having jobs, yes.
So we'll continue this discussion after you consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. We come out with interesting topics like this one daily. And if you want to continue staying up to date with interesting topics such as this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on this journey. So the whole thing is that these videos and like watching TV and all this other stuff is linked or can be linked to ADHD, autism, and obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD.
Okay.
And they're not like, like not one and the same, but if you have these sensory issues, there's a lot of those like similarities that go between like the sensory issues, having like issues with bright lights, loud noises, and other different things, and those ailments.
Yeah, and I think it's good to stress that these can be links, but
It's not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100%. It's like it's not necessarily the cause of like why these things could happen, but it is a link to why some of these things could happen.
Yeah. So the current recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, is recommending against any screen time, like any whatsoever,
Oh, okay.
for children under 2. The only time that they recommend even giving them like screen time would be for like video chats or FaceTime with family members. And then even past that, like they start like get to 2 to 5, they recommend only doing 1 hour per day of screen time. And I'm like,
I don't think the kid's gonna like that. It's not the kid's choice, but the parents are gonna have to deal with that.
The issue is, I think, like the comparison I believe is like, would you give your kid like a bunch of caffeine or no, a bunch of sugar? Like sugar is just like the same thing where like you obviously wouldn't be giving them like a whole bunch of chocolate bars. Like that's bad for them. It's like the same thing, but in terms of like it seems heartless. Like
content,
they want to. There's a lot of the thing is that there's a lot of like content specifically designed
for kids.
For kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Little Einsteins.
Oh,
more like
CoComelon, all these other things. Yeah.
So like the issue is that there's a lot of marketing and things that are all digital based that kind of, I guess, go against what the study is finding, where just any type of video interaction is not good, because like it's providing them a unrealistic expectation of the world. And I think it all comes down to like boredom. Like if they're bored and they find something to do,
Yeah.
But the other issue is that a lot of people just don't have time.
Yeah, no, they don't.
And a lot of people are already kind of like taxed when it comes to like work, and they come home and it's like, and then the kids like going off the rails, and it's like, what would make it easier is if that child had like an iPad and they just kind of get to play with whatever they want versus like having to go out and like entertain the kid.
Yeah. And you know what? It reminds me, there was a large content creator on YouTube who mentioned something like this when he saw that there was a channel, a little small channel called CoComelon that was
children love CoComelon,
that was getting billions of views. And then he commented saying it's like these can't all be just parents putting their kids in front of CoComelon.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and he was like, yeah, it is.
The kids are finding CoComelon.
Yes, they are. They're finding this, and they're able to search. I feel like they're able to search things faster now.
The thing is that I do wonder, because there's like different ideas. Like the original idea was that the technological boom would cause children and people that grew up in it to be like more literate with tech and be smarter in the ways of like, oh, okay, like they have more access to information, so they can go and like be smarter than the person. Like, oh, like why is the sky blue? And then they can go search it up, and then it's like, oh, they can, instead of having to go to the library and like look it up or something like that, or like read through a book, they can just immediately get the answer they want, or like even this like ask Alexa or something.
Yeah, or it's even AI.
Yeah,
ChatGPT now
just tell you.
Yeah.
So that was the original thought, but now it's kind of more like the negative spot for adults and other people is kind of like really affecting children, the constant like stimulation.
Because you think about it, I think in the scenario that you brought up, you would think that people would use this for this technology, and the kids would use this for learning, education, and learning to do
About
things.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, doing things faster and being more educated. But they're actually going and searching up entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just gaining all this like entertainment at a very young age, and they're just
Yeah.
getting bombarded with all of that.
So I mean, I guess the last thing is that what is it? ADHD and stuff like that is like a an issue with the dopamine receptors. So like you're basically unable to be stimulated. Like it takes a lot to like keep your attention because your body's like very used, like just like anything else. Like if you get really used to caffeine, it doesn't affect you the same way. You need
Yeah.
more. So like if you're always searching for more and more like stimulation, and then like you're not finding it. Like imagine how grumpy you are if you don't have like caffeine in the morning or something. Like it's like not a good time for a lot of people. So like imagine that cup of coffee was like
CoComelon.
CoComelon.
Yeah.
Basically CoComelon.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's their CoComelon. But then like they go to school or they do anything else,
They don't have it.
they don't
Yeah.
have like that hit of CoComelon in their life. So it's like,
So they get grumpier and they get it has a lot of downstream effects.
Mhm.
I could agree with that. And I think it's important, it is important to stress that it is linked still.
yeah,
But it's like it is
it's not like every single kid will have this exact thing happen to them,
Yeah.
but there is a strong correlation that they're finding between
Yeah.
these things. So, I mean, the researchers in the end said that like basically depriving your kids of all this like technology is like basically impossible. So it's like their job to kind of limit as much as possible without like interfering too much, because like if all their friends are all watching like CoComelon and other stuff like that, or
it
Bluey,
alienates them for
yeah, it
the
alienates them. Like
circle.
they're gonna be upset that they have nothing in common with their classmates, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a really fine line to like cross of like how much do you allow versus not allow, and like how can you keep them entertained at all times, if like a lot of times the entertainment that you and I or other adults will like go to is just, you know, like going on social media or like reading articles or watching YouTube and stuff. Like that's what we find to be relaxing. And so it's like, oh, I don't know, do we read books like in our normal times? Like I don't know, if I'm relaxing, like even you, I think this listen to audiobooks, and
Yeah,
that's
I
not
do listen
exactly
to-
the same thing.
No, it's not exactly the same thing. I just listen. Yeah, I just listen to audiobooks, which is still like using that part of technology, and it still gives me that like dopamine hit on like, oh, it's like I'm actually listening to something like that I like it, that's enjoyable, that it's like that I've picked out, which is like not like it's way different than actual having a physical book and not having that like the audio that audio
that
experience.
more stimulation, yeah.
Yeah, the more stimulation.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think that this is a growing trend for the negative? Because I mean, Gen Alpha is gonna be, you know, growing up, and I've only heard negative reports from like a lot of like teachers who are saying that like people are not able to listen or read or do math or anything.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild.
I did hear about that too. Yeah. Let us know in the comments down below.